What's up, everybody? Izzy here again with another Q&A today. Today was leg day, and without further ado, let's get on to the first question here. Bro, you're on the Q&A asking questions like every day. Do people just like skip the training videos? Maybe that's it. Yeah, I mean, I do lengthened partials on all my calf work. Pretty much every single back exercise, I do lengthened partials. So it's not necessarily something that I'm thinking about implementing. It's something I've been doing for a long time now, like probably several months. I really only use lengthened partials on movements that are extremely short biased. So, for example, something like pull-ups or rows, where the strength curve is such that you fail at the top while you still have tons of strength left in reserve towards the bottom. Or other muscle groups, for example, like side delts that are really difficult to fatigue in general. And sometimes people need huge set amounts. It's not uncommon for me to hear people doing 20 to 25 sets of side delts per week. And at that point, you have to wonder if that's still a good SFR with that level of volume. It might be better to do less sets, but add some intensifiers. So that's some examples. If I hate rice, but I can force it down, would Rice Krispies cereal be nutritionally equivalent? There's absolutely nothing magic about rice. You can eat bread, potatoes, oats, quinoa, whatever other carb source that you want. You don't have to eat rice. So that's first. Second of all, if you ever have any nutritional questions about micronutrient content, go on Chronometer and go look for yourself. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to plug Chronometer before people stop asking me if they can eat pretzels and Rice Krispies as their main carb source. It's unlikely that the Rice Krispies cereal has the exact same micronutrients as white rice, but it is possible because both children's cereal and white rice tend to be heavily fortified with vitamins and minerals, meaning that like in production, they actually add vitamins and minerals to it because they know that Americans are deficient in many of these things. So they just add it to the food that they like instead of eating it real food. Do you ever use topical fat burners such as yohimbine? No, dude, I don't even use regular yohimbine. Fat burners don't work. Like they almost all do absolutely nothing. Even the good ones that are drug based, like ephedrine. Ephedrine, the reason why it's effective is it increases your metabolism like 5 to 7%. That's meaningless. Like if you're eating 3,000, if you're burning 3,000 calories a day, what is 5%? 150 calories? That's nothing. That's like one less slice of bread. The stuff that actually works, it's because it suppresses your appetite mostly, instead of actually like in speeding up your metabolism. Until we start talking about things like DNP, fat burners are just the lazy person's magic pill, and they don't work in general. They don't add very much at all. Here's the truth about dieting that a lot of people, I guess, just don't want to accept. You're going to be hungry. Deal with it. Is internal cueing valuable in bodybuilding? It definitely can be, especially when you're learning new movements, or I think in particular during warm-ups, because during your warm-ups you can establish good habits, better mind-muscle connection with weights that aren't really that challenging yet. However, in the long run, I think all cueing, even in powerlifting or other sports, is really just training wheels. Because you want to get to the point where you can feel whether or not you're doing it right. Because a lot of this is happening under duress. Like, if you're at a meet, you might be under so much pressure from people watching you, anxiety, etc., that you're not going to have room in your head for much more than maybe one cue. So you need to get to the point where you're internalizing these things, and you can do it without having to be prompted internally or externally. It's just like, somebody swinging a golf club or a baseball bat. They focus on making it feel the same way every time, more so than using 10,000 words back to back to get it to be the right way. Any idea why I am getting calf tendon pain on heavy squats and leg press? Yes, I have a pretty good idea of why that's happening. That's typically caused by squats if you haven't been free squatting in a while, and now you're free squatting, and or usually what's happening is you are now bouncing out of the hole pretty hard. And that dynamic action like that essentially creates big forces at the turnaround, so the amortization phase. And if your tendon isn't adapted to it, it can cause some irritation. In my experience, this goes away over time. Whenever I add free squats back into my training routine, if I do not pause them and I bounce out of the hole, I will experience calf tendon pain on my leg presses for a few weeks, and then it goes away. If it doesn't go away, then you're going to have to contact a PT, because I am not Dr. AGT. Man, I'm not your mother. You don't need my permission. Like, I'm not giving you the okay to spend the night at Steven's house. We both know that anything done below 5 to 6 reps in terms of a set is suboptimal for hypertrophy. Does that mean you get zero hypertrophy with sets of 3 and 4? No, of course not. But is it still worse than sets of 5 to 6 plus? Yes, and you already knew that when you asked me this. So if you want to do sets that are suboptimal for hypertrophy because you also have strength goals, that's fine. But don't go seeking permission and trying to get someone to tell you that it isn't suboptimal, because it is. How do I deal with instability caused by using a thinner bar than usual on bench press? Well, first of all, are you just being like a little bit precious? Because if you work out at a commercial gym, unless you're regularly benching over 4 plates, like 400 plus pounds, 180 plus kilos, even crappy commercial gym bars don't really whip around. So you have to just understand that if you're like used to competition spec equipment and you're traveling or going somewhere new, that you're not going to be able to replicate your performance exactly if you are a power lifter. I used to get so mad when I would go to commercial gyms and have to use an 8-inch tall bench instead of like a competition regulation 12-inch bench. And I would bench 20 to 25 less pounds, like 10 kg. But that's just how it is. When you go back to your normal equipment, it'll be fine. If you were only training one muscle group, could you progress it faster than you are right now? And if so, how exactly would that work? I mean, yes, of course you could. So training is essentially a stressor, and if you eliminate most of the training stress by only training one muscle group, that means you can recover from more training to that particular muscle group. And any stimulus that you do give that muscle group, you will recover from it faster, because all of your recovery mechanisms and resources are directed to that singular muscle group. Not only that, but the stimulus that you would get from each workout would also be higher, because you'd be performing each workout with less central fatigue. You'd probably also always be training that muscle after an off day, so you'd be fresher going into the sessions as well. Just everything would work better if you specialized just one muscle. Ronnie Coleman once said, if you can pick it up, it's lightweight, baby. Yeah, buddy. Lightweight. Ain't nothing but a peanut. Sir, this appears to be a statement of fact and not a question. Next. If you have access to equipment with an adjustable strength curve, is it a good idea to do multiple sets? I think those two things are unrelated. So if you need multiple sets to progress a movement or a muscle group, then that's what you should be doing. If you have access to equipment with an adjustable strength curve, what it's going to allow you to do is not have to reduce the weight as much each set, because you can move more of the resistance to the lengthened portion of the lift. For example, on calf raises today, I took off 150 pounds and still only got one more rep. The other day, I was doing strive lying leg curls. I got 8 reps on my first set with all the weight in the lengthened position, and then on my second set, I used all the weight in the lengthened position again, and I got 5 reps. So instead of dropping, 40%, 35% in load, I only lost 3 reps. And so that's where adjustable strength curves can be really valuable. Do you see any value in RTS style fatigue percentages for hypertrophy? I don't really see much value in them at all. And here's the thing. Intra-workout fatigue, which means fatigue that's happening inside of that workout, does not correlate perfectly with the stimulus that you're getting from that workout. There are so many examples of this. For example, rest periods. If you rest longer, your RPEs won't go up as fast. If you fix your technique, or your technique starts getting better from set to set, you can do 6, 8, 10 sets. I once did 23 back off sets before my back offs match my initial set's RPE. That's because my technique improved the whole time. So it just doesn't work. And this is why, to my knowledge, RTS no longer even uses fatigue percentage stops. They have fixed volumes now, and fixed volumes make much more sense, in my opinion, than trying to gauge and auto-regulate your volume based on intra-workout fatigue. That doesn't work, in my opinion. If I fail out of nowhere with less grinding than usual, does that mean that set was less stimulative? There's no way we can say definitively, but I definitely, in my experience, think that that's likely the case. Typically, for me, if a movement or a set fails out of nowhere, that's indicative of other things besides the target muscle failing, whether that's central fatigue, cardio, stabilizing and support muscles. And just in general, in my experience, you have to check your own experience on this, The stimulus proxies for me on movements where there's no grinding and no rep slowdown are really, really poor. And this is what led to me adding lengthened partials to all my rows, is because I just feel nothing from rows unless I do that. I have started to regress after 8 weeks of progress, 4 sets a week to failure. Is it deload time? It very likely is deload time, but you're going to have to do a few things to confirm that. Number one is make sure this isn't just happening to one movement or one muscle group. It should be basically happening to almost every single part of your body simultaneously. That's a good indicator that it's systemic in nature and not local to one particular muscle group. Second thing is this should be something that you've noticed across 2 sessions, maybe even 3, just so that you can be sure it's not a one-off situation where you were super stressed, you had poor nutrition or poor sleep, and you can that way just make sure that this is sustained systemic fatigue that will be cleared up by a deload. All right, everybody, that is it for today as per usual. If you like the video, If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And, of course, don't forget to have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.